I do completely agree with Andrew. Yeah, I don't think that like reciting Bible verses or spewing Bible verses in people's face is a way to turn them to the faith. If anything, I think it turns them off.
Absolutely. I grew up extremely Catholic, and obviously you have that Catholic guilt growing up. Like no matter what, you will always have that Catholic guilt. But something that like hurt me about my church was like that they were just like spewing all this stuff, like unnecessary bullshit, I guess, at a very young age, where it was like really, really messing with our heads. And like I really stopped and I guess removed myself from the church, even though I like still really hold on to faith, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I remember like going to like Sunday school and like hearing like really hurtful and hateful shit, like not even directed towards me, but it was just like, how is that like even part of like a religion? It's just so hateful, you know?
Well, okay. Well, now we just got done where I say this, and then we hear this. But what do you mean?
I wasn't like hateful? No, I wasn't like saying like I wasn't trying to bring down the church. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be.
No, I understand. I'm just wondering what happened, which was hateful.
They would say a lot about like LGBTQ, the community, and that obviously like went really wrong with me. Overall, I didn't have a good experience in the church. I loved like the aspect of like going to mass and like preaching and like having like some type of faith, but personally I just was never really connected with it. And then everything that they would like preach to us, especially very, very young when we were still in high school and like figuring things out, was very off-putting to me, especially like not really like knowing myself too well, I guess. And then they're just like spewing kind of like a lot of like hate.
Did you go through
would you say
yes.
Would you say the things that you would perceive as being hateful, the things which they kind of preach as being restraints or human restraints, do you think that it was the restraint aspect of it that you disliked the most?
Not the restraint. Honestly, today Pope Francis actually, what he do? He condemned the LGBTQ marriage for church in the Catholic Church, which I think is a great thing. I love that. I love that for the Catholic Church. But
can you repeat? Condemned means the opposite.
That means that he's not for
condone.
Yeah.
Condone.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He condoned.
Yeah, but that's the opposite of restraint. That's the whole point.
I know. I'm saying that back then my church would definitely preach like a lot of like, I wouldn't say restraint. That's not restraining towards me, but I'd say that was pretty hateful back then.
Yeah, but they're societal restraints. That's the point.
You have no idea what was said to her though in the Sunday schools.
That's why I'm asking.
I know, that's why I think the disconnect is like, yeah, you're talking about restraints, but it could be also that she just had a very negative priest, or the way that they were going about it wasn't preaching exactly the word.
If she could tell me.
Right.
Yeah, and I was very disobedient at the time, I guess. I would like skip Sunday school. I'd like leave with my friends. So that wasn't a great thing. I also wasn't like taking it too seriously because of these reasons, because I was like, I want to rebel against whatever they are telling me. Yeah. And I would get in trouble. The father would tell my mom, and he would call my mom, and he'd tell him I wasn't there and that I left. So that wasn't fun.
So it sounds like you were rebelling against the restraint.
Yes, right? I was at that time. But like the thing is, I was almost like very forced into the religion because I grew up Catholic. But I have done.
The thing I've noticed, just to kind of like this exchange back and forth, that most of the time when people say that the church or a church is doing something which is hateful, they're usually pointing out a restraint on behavior that they don't like. It's not that they're hateful towards anybody or they're doing anything which is hateful, but rather they're issuing a set of restraints and people don't want to adhere to what those restraints are, so they tend to term it as being hateful behavior.
But it is hateful because it's
what restraints are you referring to?
I was raised Catholic,
because they would tell us at church, like, if a man sleeps with a man, like, you're going to hell. Like, that was
that would be restraint behavior, saying don't do that.
That's hateful because they'd say gay people.
That's not hateful.
No, they'd say people were bad. They'd say gay people.
If you honestly thought somebody would go to hell for doing that act, wouldn't the least hateful thing in the world be to stop them from doing the act?
Bro,
I don't think it's a responsibility.
People are gonna live their own
listen closely
lives.
to the question.
I am listening.
If you honestly thought a person would go to hell for eternity, fire and brimstone for eternity, for doing an act, then wouldn't the least hateful thing be to tell them not to do the act or to try to restrain them from doing the act?
I'm sorry, but no.
Looking from a different perspective,
No?
it's out of
Well,
love.
how could the answer to that be no?
Because I knew from a young age. I knew from a young age that that wasn't okay for the church to say you're going to hell and you're gonna burn forever because you like a man.
I think it's
Okay, no, I'm not asking whether you believe it or not. I'm asking if a person did believe it, if they honestly felt in their core being that hell was real and that people were going to go to that place, this horrible, horrific place for eternity if they did an act, then wouldn't the least hateful thing for that person to do be to try to stop people from engaging in that act?
I'm sorry, I've already answered your question.
No, I can answer it.
You literally didn't answer the question.
Okay,
You just
I can
reframed
answer
it.
it then.
Sophie will answer
If
it.
you have proof of that and you want to affect people's lives based off of that proof, then sure, but there isn't any. So you can't dictate other people's lives based off
no,
of
what are you talking? No, listen to the question.
No,
How
I
would
did
you?
listen to
Okay,
the
here, let me
question,
ask a
but
different question.
it's not your
How would you
responsibility.
feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I usually don't eat breakfast this morning. I don't care.
Okay, well, and that's why we can't do the hypothetical.
Okay, I can do a hypothetical with you. If I honestly
Well,
thought
you
that,
I
also
literally
could
just asked you
understand-
one. It's a very basic
Okay, well, if
question
you
about
wouldn't cut me
breakfast,
off,
and you
then I
couldn't
could
engage in the
answer.
hypothetical.
Okay, if you don't want my answer, that's fine. I don't. have to
Well, I
give it to
mean,
you.
well, are you actually going to answer the question? So here's the actual
Well, I would
question.
like
Let me
to
give
be
it to you
allowed
again.
to.
The person believes it. They actually believe it. Whether you believe it or not, it's totally irrelevant.
Yes, but
That
it's a
person
huge
believes it. So
imposition
if
on
that
someone
person
else's
believes
life.
it, and that person, wouldn't the least hateful thing for them to do would be to stop you from doing the activity they thought would lead to that heinous thing?
No, because then you're
No.
controlling
Imposing on
free
someone else's will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're controlling free will. Why would somebody ever do that?
If you stopped a murderer, are you controlling free will?
Bro,
It's not your
that's
responsibility
different
to
with sleeping with
stop.
somebody else. That's
Why?
so different.
No,
from
it's the
sleeping
same
with
thing.
somebody
You're
else.
literally trying to stop a behavior that you think is damaging to a person. Wouldn't the least hateful thing be, if you honestly believe that that was true, that a person would go to hell for all of existence?
did
Would you try
believe
your
that.
hardest to stop them from doing that
I
behavior?
did believe that.
Yes, and I see what the faith that they're coming from is from a good standpoint, as they're trying to help them because they think that yes, if they do this action, that they're going to spend the eternity in hell, whatever. So I do see how Christians are trying to help that action and trying to help these people.
Right.
But I think my issue more stands from, because I'm coming back into my faith. I was raised Catholic. I'm branching back into Christianity to see exactly where I fall in. I think the bigger issue is the hypocrisy. So it's like, if you're going to focus on the LGBTQ community for doing those actions, just also make sure you focus on everything else in the Bible that the Bible condemns. Make sure that you're also focusing on all of those people too, and not just the LGBT community, because that's not the only thing that the Bible says for us not to do, right? So like, just make sure you give the same energy to everybody.
Yeah, okay, but to engage with this, maybe you can help me out here, Kiko.
The other
If the person believes this is what they believe, and they're trying to stop or restrain a behavior because they think it'll lead to this horrific outcome, and they actually care about you, don't you think that person, the least hateful thing that they could do would be to try to stop that behavior?
And
All right, this is your
said,
final
I said
thing
yes.
on this, and I'm going to move on.
I said yes,
Okay,
but just keep
thank
the
you.
same energy.
I just want to make sure.
Keep the same energy is all I'm saying, is with everything.